podcast. My name's Maddie B, and I'm your host. Our guest today is Michele Reynolds. She's a loving wife and mum, first and foremost. She's a national speaker, she's an author, successful entrepreneur. She spent 26 years in a male dominated industry. Beyond her professional success, her journey has been marked by deeply personal challenges. She faced her husband's cancer diagnosis. She found strength through writing, transforming pain into purpose, and writing her book, Pause Between the Years. Today, she uses her story to empower others, encourage vulnerability, find inner strength, and step into authenticity. Michele, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Maddie. I'm so
I
happy
had to
to be here.
well, I'm so thrilled to have you. And I had to write all that down because there's so much. I was, I was trying to remember it all earlier, but there was so much and I didn't want to miss anything off the
Oh,
list.
thank
Oh.
you. Oh my God.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. I'm so happy to be here talking with you.
Oh,
Yeah, just excited to share my journey, share my story, and hopefully can help others.
well, and I love just to give a little bit of background. I actually found Michele, maybe even stalked her a little bit, although you do put yourself out there on social media. So I think I think that's allowed.
Uh-huh.
But I actually saw you on LinkedIn and I saw your posts go within.
Mhm.
Being one of your many messages,
Yeah.
and connected with you. I just sent you a little friend request, which you kindly accepted, and
Yes.
sent you a message just to say how much I appreciated what you were sharing. The message of going within and authenticity is so important, and I want to dive in with you. So just for our listeners, so they
Right.
can just learn a bit about your background, could you share a little of that?
Sure, sure. So I'm Michele Reynolds. I'm a speaker, author, and entrepreneur. I'll talk a little bit about the entrepreneur side. So my husband and I are in business. We have been for, gosh, going on 27 years now. I can't believe it. I'm primary owner. So it's electrical contracting company, and we perform electrical work for residential, commercial, and industrial. Um, the way that it all kind of started was a little crazy. I have to tell you this story. So this is back in 1998 when my husband came home. He's a master electrician by trade, and he came home one evening. At the time, we had two small boys. We have three total adult kids now, but we had two small boys at the time. And he came home and said, Michele, what do you think about us starting our own electrical contracting company? Well, if I give you a little bit of background, I was working for an insurance company at the time. We had a major downsize. So I just lost my job with two small kids.
Gosh.
And my husband's very much a risk taker, and I'm more on the conservative side. So it was a very challenging me at first to hear this and say, wait a minute, okay, you want to start your own company, and I have no job right now. We have two small kids. Now, going beyond that, when I think back, and this all makes sense as we move forward, but entrepreneurship has always been a love of mine. And through my different careers, going beyond the insurance part of it, when I was 16, I started out as a hairdresser. I was
Oh,
in
wow. Okay.
California, right?
Yeah.
And and I loved it. For a while there, I was in the business for about 7 years. But I kept navigating towards a leadership role. I kept navigating towards wanting more than, yeah, I guess behind the scenes of a business and the ideal of it, and how it all works, but also being able to share my ideas and then helping others. So in the hair industry, I was a hairdresser. And then I kind of went to beyond that, where I started becoming an assistant manager and then a manager in the company that I had been working for. And I said to myself at that point, I said, if I'm going to stay in this industry, I want to own my own hair salon. Well, needless to say, I don't know. I guess I got burnout from it. I was doing it so much that I said to myself, this isn't for me. I want to continue and move on. So then that's when I got into the insurance industry, and I was in it for about 7 years. And again, I started off as a medical benefit analyst. So I processed medical claims. But again, I had a drive. I had I don't know what you call it, was just a feeling, an intuitive feeling that I wanted to offer more and help others. And I found myself in a team leader position. And then from there, I went to a supervisor and then on all the way up to a management. And then the bottom fell out. I mean, there was a huge downsize, right? So many of us got eliminated. And I felt at that moment, okay, what do I do at this point? I need to regroup and figure out what my next step is. That's when my husband came home that evening and said, hey, let's start our own company. So it was very intriguing to me because I had that entrepreneur love.
Yeah.
I really thought that, okay, maybe we can do something with this, and needless to say, we started in 98. At that time, I was doing more so the bookkeeping, the accounting part of it. And a year or two later, we had our daughter. And as time went on, I found myself more and more involved in the company where by 2009 is when I became primary owner. And that's when it was established as a woman-owned company.
That's amazing.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and that, that entrepreneurial spirit, I do think it's something that is in you from being a child.
Mhm.
There's an adventurous side. And, as you said, your husband was more of the risk taker, but even in that entrepreneurial ship and spirit, there's the excitement of sort of taking some risk.
Yes.
Maybe on your side of things, it was a bit more of a balanced risk.
Yes.
So talk to me about moving into that. You all had no experience within the industry and started this business, or did your husband have
Well,
the
my husband did. My husband's a master electrician by trade, so
yeah,
he's very talented at what he does, and he worked for many different companies before we started. So he
yeah,
definitely had that background.
had the background?
Yes, and I had the background more so in just building relationships, and I had the accountant background. I had the business. I had took some college classes in business management and marketing. So I think I was always good with numbers. I always felt like I was good. Did I like it? No.
Right.
But I was good at it. So you put those two together, and I think that's why my husband and I worked so well for all these years, is because my husband's more so out in the field operations, an estimator, and I'm more so back end operations of the company. But kind of throughout the years, it's interesting, right? Because in a male dominated industry, my husband and I, partners in business, when we went out to business to network, we didn't announce that we were husband and wife.
Interesting.
I didn't want that to really hinder, my position in the company as a primary owner. And I tell you, my husband was really one to really help push me out there. I was more hesitant at first. Um, and I feel that, he saw this leadership in me, which I didn't at first see within myself. And he kept saying, you can do this, you can do that. And so eventually we kept going out, we kept networking, and through this whole process, I started to gain my confidence. I started to gain that, oh yeah, I can do this, even in this male dominated industry, it's about asserting yourself and putting yourself out there and having the confidence and knowing that you have value to bring, to others and to customers. And we're a family owned company. So we really wanted to share that with others, with customers and our employees as well, and I think that's where you build these connections and these relationships.
And it's, from your story and just up until this part, and,
Mhm,
this is just the beginning.
mhm,
It's amazing how the path was laid out and the different skill sets you picked up along the way. And, business is all about the numbers. I mean, obviously, sales too and marketing, but, if you
mhm,
can't run the numbers, then
mhm.
you're in trouble. And
Exactly.
I love that your husband was your cheerleader.
Mhm,
And obviously, you've grown from being a little hesitant to put yourself out there to
mhm,
now that being what you do every day. I
Oh,
mean, it's
yeah.
an incredible transformation in that sense.
Mhm.
And what were your biggest challenges in the male dominated industry? Like, you talked a little bit about sort of the confidence level and that growing. What other challenges did you have as far as being in that industry?
I mean, I would say really, really don't let anyone intimidate you. It's again, it's putting yourself out there and let go of the judgment of what others may think of you because you're a woman and not feel like, a lot of times would have to announce who I am as owner of the company, whereas my husband would not have to say anything. It would be a given that, oh yeah, you must be, owner of the company. Um, but it's asserting yourself. It's really putting yourself out there and having that confidence. And I just remember working with so many mentors throughout the years, and that was so helpful because it helped me to become more strong internally so that I could portray that out. And I do remember too, going through this whole process that, I had to suppress a lot of the softness within me. I had to suppress because I didn't want to be shown as being weak. I had to be strong. I had to be assertive. And so it's funny because if I go back in years, I was very shy when I was young. And I look back again, like you said, it's amazing how we go through these different phases in our lives and they're all here to teach us different things. And I think being in leadership roles was a way that I faced my fear of being shy and putting myself out there. But I always knew I had so much more to offer. When I was little, I was just I would observe everything, but not say much. But as time went on, I knew one day it's all going to come out, so
Yeah.
I just had that passion in me to want to help others and I had to believe that everything that I was stepping into throughout my years in my career, that it was meant to happen and I was supposed to learn from it and move on. And there was along with Shelley Sons Electrical, back in 2014, not that we had one company, but we said, hey, let's start another company, which was a little crazy. We started a utility contracting
Yeah.
company. And that was I always say this, that was kind of like um male dominated field but on steroids.
Right. Oh my goodness. I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was such a great idea. Again, we got together and said, hey, we can create this company. And the way that it happened, really briefly, is that we were contracting other companies to do high voltage work. Okay, so with that, we knew in the state of Delaware that there were no other utility contractors in the state of Delaware to perform high voltage work. And not to mention it was woman owned. So we said, you
Yeah.
know what, let's start this idea. Let's develop a team together. I was president. My husband was vice president. We had another male partner that was vice president. So we developed a team. We got our business plan together. A year later, we developed our utility contracting company. It was it was amazing. I mean, I don't have any regrets. It lasted for 4 years. We would learn so much from it. I look back and I say, okay, we started out as a non-union contracting company. We still had our electrical contracting company and we had our utilities. So working together with both side by side. But our challenge was financially that we didn't realize how challenging it would be to employ linemen because most of the linemen were union. So we kept getting knocks at the door, to join the union. We're like, no, we're good. We got this. And come to find out that we eventually said, you know what? Yeah, we need you. We need to become unionized. And once we did, that's kind of when everything fell apart because we were not financially set up to take on the union. It was a big expense. Um, we learned so much from it. Like I said, and I look back again and I say to myself, okay, there was huge lessons learned from this, I grew so much as a person, as a leader, and there was obstacles that we overcame in such a short time. But as we talk further, sooner to that is when my husband was diagnosed.
I mean, you talked about so much there. They say having a business is like having another child.
Mhm.
So then you've got your three at home, is that right? And then you have
Yes.
your business, and now you have another business. As a mom and a wife, juggling that, there's a fortitude that is massively underestimated. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't imagine what your day looked like. And one of
Yes.
the other interesting things you spoke about was mentorship. And I have mentors in multiple areas of my life, and it's been a game changer. And
Mhm.
so your mentors along the way, just for listeners, how did you pick them up? How did you find them?
I think through just networking, I was in a think tank for women. So we all got together. I really, really went after, the support that was offered with women owned businesses, and I stuck with that. And it was so encouraging. And we would meet monthly, we would meet weekly, but it was always having someone in your corner to help you, guide you through these times, just to keep giving you that strength and the resources that were out there available to women-owned companies. It was
No,
amazing.
yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what organizations are out there and the women
Mhm.
in business and the networking opportunities. And I think there's also a confidence in asking for a mentor. There's a level of kind of self-worth that you need to have to, open your mouth and ask somebody. I think there's a confidence just in that. So just moving on to, I know you touched upon it, moving into your husband's cancer diagnosis. I'm sure the world stopped for
Mm,
you. how
yeah.
how did you feel in that moment?
Um, it was, yeah, just like you said, the world stopped. I mean, it felt like we were in this, the best way I could visualize it, it felt like we were in this glass dome and just everybody else was moving along in their life and we had completely stopped.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It was only a couple months after when we closed our utility contracting company. So I remember when we closed the company, at that point, I remember I felt really attached to that label, with being a leader of a utility contracting company. I had visualized that it would go a little differently than I planned. But towards the end, I said to myself, I know this is not meant to be. I knew that. I really, really knew that. And hindsight, now I look back when my husband was diagnosed a couple months after that, I was like, thank God, like we didn't have two companies that we had to manage, everything happens for a reason.
Reason. Mhm.
And I know at the time when my husband was first diagnosed back in 2018, and that's when the company had closed. So a few months after that, he was diagnosed with plasmacytoma, which is cancer of the plasma cells, but it's an isolated tumor at the time. And at that point, he had radiation, and they had mentioned to him that he has a chance of developing multiple myeloma, 50% chance. So 2 years later, in 2020, was when he developed the multiple myeloma. Um, and it was very interesting because during this process, when we closed our utility contracting company, now keep in mind, we still had our electrical, which thank God, I mean, it was still up and running, everything was good. But I had mentioned to my husband, I said, I need to step back because I feel like I'm lost. I felt lost for a little while there. I said, I don't know what my next step is. So I need to regroup. I need to have some time to figure this out because it wasn't that I didn't want to be a part of our electrical contracting company. I mean, I absolutely wanted to, but I felt like I had more to offer and I wasn't stepping into that. I wasn't stepping into my full capacity or passion of what I could offer. And I knew that, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
It's
So
really interesting. Sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's so interesting. The last three podcasts that we've recorded, there's been all three of you beautiful women have all said, I knew I was meant for more
Mhm.
and I couldn't put my finger on it.
Mhm.
And there was that inner knowing and that taking the time as well. You know, each of you have, said that there was that moment where you were kind of, 1 foot sort of in your current identity in life, but then this, about to step forward into something else, into something more. So yeah, I cut you off. Talk a little bit more about that.
No, no. And so that's what I was in the midst of, just trying to figure out what my next step was. I was totally, like you said, I didn't know, but I knew there was something I had to do. And it was, and again, I'm a firm believer. I go with my feeling. It's a gut feeling. I don't have to, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't even, and I couldn't even describe it to my husband. I just said, I don't know. I just feel like I need to step back and just trust me, what I'm doing here. And it was time, and it's patience, and it's a process, but it's kind of my first beginning of going within that I talk about a lot. Um, so when my husband was diagnosed, of course, everything changed at that moment. We were so fortunate that a cousin of ours has a friend that has had multiple myeloma for over 20 years. So they got us in contact with him. We found out the facility, the amazing hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas, that focuses on myeloma, multiple myeloma. And we got in touch with a doctor, and we were on our way. It was 17,000 miles away from our home. We drove there first. And because we had to remotely take everything with us, because we're in business, we can't just like shut down, but we trusted our employees. We're a small group. We have about 6 of us total, which we absolutely love, amazing employees. And we had to trust and said, hey, we got to go, basically save my husband's life. And we were connected remotely, but we wanted to focus on helping Mike, heal and get better. And they did such an amazing job. I mean, we were gone for 4 months. So we live in Delaware. We moved temporary over to Little Rock, Arkansas. We worked with an amazing, oh gosh, facility. It was, they're called Goodness Village. So what they do is they help out-of-state patients with housing, apartments, fully furnished, everything. And you're like 5 minutes from the hospital. So that was so convenient.
Incredible. And the who was the contact that was it a member of your family that
It
knew?
was a friend, yes. It was our cousin's friend that has been treated over at the Little Rock, Arkansas Myeloma Center. And
Can't make that up. You can't make that up.
oh my gosh,
No.
no, no, no. And with this type of cancer, it's fast moving. It's so fast. So I remember the doctor saying, you have 2 weeks to get your affairs in order, and you need to come here. And we really didn't know how long we were going to stay, but it ended up being about 4 months. My husband received 2 stem cell transplants. It was right during COVID. It was in March of 2020. So I could not go in the hospital. So I spent a lot of time at the apartment patiently waiting as my husband was getting treated every day. And it was very tough.
And you're incredibly vulnerable during the stem cell treatment, aren't you?
Oh,
You're incredibly vulnerable. So there must
oh
have been.
yeah,
So,
yes.
so during those days and being in, in the apartment, and what did you do during the day to, for our listeners, what were your tools to get through the days, to get through the fear, to get through, just the worry? And was it then that you started the really going? I know you talked about going within really in that transitional period and then that leading up to this, but then this situation would put that on a whole other level.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of things that were happening. So when my husband was getting treated, I have a lot of time by myself, which I think was good. It was really good. My family, I was always in contact with them. They were such a supportive group, and family, my friends. I mean, my gosh, even though my husband and I were alone there, my kids were home. There was that contact every day, which really helped me stay centered, and my husband to keep us going. So we didn't feel like we were alone. We had this group of people around us. We couldn't see them, but they were there. They were, always we were on the phone talking. Yeah, but I would I would go out. There was a park called Two Rivers Park. It was a beautiful park, and it's two rivers that kind of meshes together. And I remember, I'm the type where, I got my earbuds in. I listen all the time to podcasts. Um, and I would just try to constantly be curious and ask myself these questions and what's going on? What does this mean? Um, of course, when you're hit with cancer, you're always like, why is this happening? But my husband and I never went down that victim mode. We just looked at it. We're the type kind of like, okay, this is what we got. What do we got to do? And you just go for it. And my husband is so good at that. He's more of a stoic kind of personality, which I think he's amazing how he handled all this. I take things in a little bit more, which is okay. And I think a lot about stuff, but I think what helped me the most was really trying to understand everything that was going on. And I remember talking to my daughter, and I told her, I said, I have so many thoughts. I don't know what to think about all this. And she's like, Mom, just write. Write like no one's going to ever see this. And I said to myself, okay. So I would get up 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep much. I got up and my husband was in the other room resting, and I would start just, writing things down, typing. And I know the first couple of times I wrote, it was more so like the observation of my husband and watching him, what he was going through and how I was feeling. And every morning I just kept writing. I kept writing. I kept writing. And I noticed that my writings turned more into like inspirational. Just I was pulling all the good stuff. It was almost kind of like I would observe him, but I would pull all of the good stuff out of what he was
Wisdom.
going through, and it's I still get emotional thinking about it because
False.
there was a lot of physical changes that he went through. And it's still kind of hard. But going through that, it's like that's when you appreciate the people that you're with. That's when you appreciate the people that you love, because you see their physical bodies going through so many different changes, right? But the energy within them, I remember with my husband, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Take your time. Take your time. Just I can't begin to imagine what that was like. And you see, like you're talking about, you see those physical changes. But one of the things that you know, my mum and dad would always talk about was, how are they when somebody was going through something that, that level of difficult,
Oh,
um how are they in themselves is what they would ask. How are they in them? How are they in? Because their spirit, if their spirit's strong, they've still got a bit of an attitude. They're still, if that's their personality, if they're a bit sassy
right.
or whatever the word might be, if
Mhm.
they've still got that that spirit, and it's a lot, the spirit's alive and not necessarily well, going through physical pain and chronic pain and all of that that goes with that. But yeah, there's a if they're still there, and it sounds like that's what you saw.
Yeah. Well, I think what I noticed more so was that it really helped me to understand that our our bodies are a physical body, but what makes a person, that person is their internal, is their energy. it's their personality. So when you see somebody going through that and they're lifeless in a sense, right? As he was going through the chemotherapy, you start to look through the layers of someone. It's not just their physical appearance, it's who they are. It's what connects you to others. And so that's what I became awakened to, I guess you could say. And I wanted to learn more about that because I thought, wow, just seeing someone go through that opened up my eyes to the deeper connection that people have with each other, you
Yeah,
know.
no, that's beautiful. And I know your daughter said something really important, I think, which was, Mom, nobody is going to see this,
Mm-hmm.
which I know when people are, working on writing a book, I pulled up earlier today because I wanted to look. I think it's, yeah, 81% of people say they want to write a book, but only 3% actually follow through and complete one, and around 1% go on to publish it. So you are in the 1%. And one of the things that holds people back and to completion of their book is perfectionism. And so I think your daughter, it's amazing, the things that people say at the right times, and her saying nobody's going to see this probably just erased any worry of perfectionism.
Oh, well, and I always tease myself. I say I am a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah, you really? Yes, me too. Me too.
Because and I've always been like that. And all of our kids, we have two boys and a girl. Our oldest is 32, and
Gosh, you don't
and
look old enough. I'm sure you
uh,
get that all the time.
and our middle one, Anthony, is 28, and Nicole's 25. And I was they're our angels, right? You learn from each one of them, and they bring something different to the table whenever we talk and have conversations. And I think for my daughter's very spontaneous. She likes to just do things on a whim, where I'm like, let's plan everything. And I know that about myself in the past, that perfectionist held me back from so many things, where that's also now what I talk about is, no, people want that imperfection. People want the authenticity. People want to see, not only hear the good things, but the things that aren't so good, because that's where we grow and start to learn from, and I thought that that's where, my voice needs to be. And I think going through this process of writing allowed me, or started the journey of me really seeing myself for the first time,
Mm.
and it just opened up another world.
That's perfect. I love the way it all unfolds, because that was really what I was going to ask you about next, was really just diving a bit deeper into authenticity. It's a word that's thrown around a lot. Um, and I think, I remember sort of on my own healing journey, I didn't even really know what color I liked, what color I truly liked. It was, all the messages and societal messages of what looks good, or what's pretty, or what's attractive. And, all that goes into many different facets of life. So in your journey of authenticity, and that being a core value for you, you know, did you go through that similarly, that you were surprised by what was truly authentic for you as that unfolded?
Oh,
And
yeah.
were there, and I have to ask, were there things that people didn't necessarily, warm to about you? That, because not everybody's for everyone, there's,
Right.
and being authentic sometimes means not being liked, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So what was the
Yeah.
feeling like that?
I think I had to, again, through the writing, the more and more I did. I remember, like, at the time when I started writing back in 2020, I never thought that this was going to be a book. I just wrote. I kept writing, and again, I would just keep all of my writings, and I would wake up early and write about whatever came to mind, but kind of in a poetic way. But then I would self-reflect on it. I Through that writing is where I started to see myself, truly see myself, and see that I was holding myself back, right? And I heard the self-negative talk, that happens. And because I would want to do certain things. I'm like, oh, and I would pull myself back. And I knew that was a habit of mine. I knew that I would always constantly keep pulling myself back, or I would wait for permission for others to say, you should do this. So I had to understand, like, why? Why did I keep pulling myself back? Was it because I just didn't feel worthy, or I didn't feel worthy of being heard or seen? So I think a lot of times, again, we have to go back, right, years ago, and to understand why we do the things that we do. And I think through all of this, develop this love to be authentic, to be real, because I feel like so many people may resonate with what I'm going through, what I've been going through. And I think it takes sometimes situations in our life experiences that are devastating, right?
100%.
Where it wakes you up and you're like, wow, like thank God my husband's doing well today. He's cancer free, but it doesn't mean we're in the clear. It's one of those things, and now I know when you're diagnosed with cancer, and even though you're in complete remission, it's like life after cancer. It's like and I remember saying that, like, what do we do now? It's like, how do you, because we're going back in April. He's going back to get tested. He goes every year. We go back, and he's always going to have to do that. So it's always like in your mind, is this tiger going to come back? But we try not to focus on that. Of course, we focus on always trying to do everything right so it doesn't come back. But it really taught me that nobody in the world is safe, right? Like, we're all going to die one day, and I know that. And I think before, it never hit me as much as it did us going through that, and that life is short and it goes by so fast. And I don't want to have any regrets when I get older, or hopefully, I will still be here when I'm 80s or 90s. I don't know. But I think the thing is now that my perception is a little different, right? Where I look at things and say, okay, I really want to make an impact in the world. I want to help others. I want to be that light for others. And I want to do all I can today, right now, whatever that
Yeah.
is.
And it sounds like, well, I know for me too, the most devastating things have had the most obviously impact, but the greatest gifts. And I don't know, can you imagine a world where everybody had that moment of awakening where they knew, this life was finite, and um, to be present and to love your loved ones, and to choose your relationships and choose your friendships with people that are for you, and, speak up, and
Yeah.
step into the success that you're stepping into in an authentic place,
Mhm.
and to be of service to others, and to share that light and liberate, so many women and men, I'm sure. Um, and so I know that, so now you're in this space of authenticity, and I know you've worked with Jacob Brown,
Yeah.
and he's fantastic. He's coming on the show as well. I can't wait to have
Mhm.
him.
Mhm.
But so did he help you with was it the public speaking that you focused on with him? Or is that something, I know obviously being a leader and being an entrepreneur, and being in networking, organizations, you'll have had experience with that. But then speaking on stage about your vulnerability and your
Mhm.
personal story, how did you need help and support with that? Did he
Um,
mentor you with that?
Jacob helped me in so many ways. He's so much more than what he's so humble. He really helped position me, to get out there more. But I think it was more so he believed in me from day one. He believed in me from day one, and he never made me feel. A lot of times when you talk to others, and we may put them on a pedestal, it may put them a little higher. He's like, no, no, like, we're all the same. We can all do this. You can. So it was like that commonality, that feeling of I belong, and with him, I felt that from day one. And it's that belief system that and where you connect with each other, where you can start working together. You have the same values and you share the same values. So it was like talking to a really good friend, every time we met and talked. So as time went on, I mean, he not only helped me in my belief system, but also like the social media. And you put those posts out there, you can do it, and giving me different areas and suggestions and professional photography done
I
and
was about to say your photography is so stunning. Your photography, and it's so elegant and simple,
mm,
and thoughtful. Your presentation of yourself, on the social media is absolutely stunning.
oh, well, I just wanted, I always, every time I do a post, I usually it's something that I've been through. It's something that, I just experienced and I'm thinking, okay, how can, because I just want to be so real. I want to be, and I always say authentic a lot, but I want to be who I am so that others can feel like, oh, I can be who I am too. And oh my God, that happened to me. And I don't feel alone. I think that's the whole thing, is not feeling alone, feeling like somebody else out there is going through what you've been through. And there's certain tools that I would love to share with
Oh yes, absolutely.
family.
Yes,
You
share.
know, I know through this process, when we say, to ourselves, okay, well, I talk about going within, right? What does that mean? And it kind of meetings, so many different meanings for everybody. But for me, going within is really connecting to your heart, connecting to who you are. I'm a big advocate for speaking from my heart. I'm very transparent. This is like who I am. And I believe that, and again, right, I know, Matt, you can appreciate this, like being in the electrical industry, right? I've been surrounded by the terms power, right? Connection, energy.
Oh my gosh, I love it. You cannot make it up.
And it was funny because years ago, before I kind of knew what path I was on, it's like, what is it? What is it? And I kept thinking to myself, I know I'm in this industry for something more. What is it? And those terms came to my mind years ago. I wrote about it, not even knowing that I would be doing this, what I'm doing today. And I was like, power. Okay, power. Yeah, it's power within us and connection. We connect with others and the energy,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. But, going within is really connecting to your power, right? To who we are at your core. And it's almost like having a mirrored effect, like turning yourself around and looking at you and saying, okay, who are you? But just to be curious and ask questions and without judgment. A lot of times I'll do in the morning, and this can be done at any time. I mean, for me, I'm a morning person. I get up
Me
very
too.
early.
Yeah. You're up at
So
4. Are you up at 4, did you say?
well, 5.
5, yeah. I'm up a similar, but any time between 4 and 5, depending on what's going on. But yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
same way. I'm the same way.
Yes. And I do, it's called me time. It's MEE. So it's meditation, which may not be for everyone, but meditation can mean walking out in the park, just creating space in your mind for reflection, for self-awareness, because you can gain so much of that self-awareness through just being quiet, in nature. And then I educate, which I'm constantly feeding my brain with podcasts, I could go on and on about like Mel Robbins, Ed Milet. I mean, there's so many that you can constantly learn from. That's what I do every single morning. And then I exercise. I try to, maintain a regular exercise to help me physically, because and I know we didn't talk about this too much, but I think it's important to say too as well, when as a caregiver, when we were going through that with my husband, and I may speak on caregivers, if there's any listeners out there that are caregivers, we tend to forget about ourselves so much because you're so focused on the other, the person that's you love so much, so you want to get help for. And I remember going through a time where I was in so much pain and I was hurting so much physically. And I thought there was something wrong with me. And I went to the doctors and they're like, no, it's just, stress, or you've been through a lot lately. And come to find out, again, I would like say to myself, what is going on here? And I knew intuitively it was something else that was happening. And it was the shallow breathing. I wasn't breathing. I was holding myself so tight, and which created pain and tightness. And until I became aware of that, it kept happening. So I started to understand what happened and started doing the exercises. And within a few months, it was gone. But it took a lot of mm, self help.
Yeah. And discipline.
Yes.
A lot of
Yes.
discipline. We
Yeah.
can know something is good for us to go and do, but a lot of people, struggle with discipline. So yeah,
Yes.
and you took that time for yourself and to,
Hmm.
really investigate. I think your message to go within, and I know you've probably got additional tools to talk about, but breathing specifically, I do the same thing. I will catch myself at my laptop, shoulders up to my ears and
Yeah.
holding my breath, and I'll notice it. And I'm like, gosh, I'm surprised I'm still alive. I'm still but
That's
no, going back to your tools, what else do you
well, and that is one too. I know with the meditation one, the self-awareness. I was getting ready to say the breathing. Oh my gosh. We need oxygen, right? And I know, right? Like there were so many times I said, "Oh, I can't believe I'm still here because I'm barely breathing." But we go around every day not realizing that until, right, you sit. And then I started doing these breathing techniques, and I'm starting to share them with my family and say, "Oh my gosh." And again, my daughter, she told me about this app, this breathing app, app that's so helpful. And it heals your body because you're putting oxygen back in your body. And they're simple. Like I think we sometimes make things more difficult or harder, or we think that they should be hard in order for them to be effective. And usually it is the simple things in life that are so healing. And breathing is one of them.
yeah.
And it's about that mindfulness breathing. Um and that is, and then of course writing. And I know writing's not for everyone, but if I can share this one tool that I used, it's called stream writing consciousness, or
Mm,
stream of consciousness writing. It's where you pen to paper and you just write for 5 minutes. You don't let up at all. Like anything that comes to your mind, you
write
don't
it
bring,
down.
write on paper. And I remember working with my book coach, and she's like, I just want you to do this every single morning for 5 minutes. And she's like, I know it's going to be silly. You're going to look at stuff and go, what was I doing? Because you're really just writing down everything that comes to your mind. And then you can throw the paper away, you can do whatever. And I did it every single morning. And again, I'm thinking, what is this going to do? Like, is this helpful? Well, as time went on, my creativity started just to come alive. I noticed my writings were better, and I thought of more things, and I thought, wow, this is amazing that this exercise, who I kind of thought it was like ridiculous, and it really was so helpful because it opens up your mind.
That's incredible. Like you said, you touched on something really important, I think, for listeners. And there is, lots of people will read self-help and then, it's the simplest thing. But then hold themselves back from, there's a discipline part of it. And then there's, as you said, thinking it should be more complicated than it actually is. That's a really powerful message for people just to dive in and have a go.
Mhm,
And letting go, like you said, of the judgment of what you're writing down is a big deal.
mhm.
I journal as well, and my meditation is I send a gratitude list out to quite a few people every morning. And it's just time to reflect on what I'm truly grateful for. And
Yeah.
it's a rainy, cloudy day today, but I was grateful for it. It's a bit rainy, and um, I don't know. It was such a privilege to come and sit with you, and
Oh,
I have a hot cup of tea and a warm
yeah.
house, and beautiful environment to meet with you in. And it's just,
Oh,
it gets you in that space, that space,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? I don't like the word right, but a true space,
Oh,
the true space.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I have to
Well,
say, you are so easy to talk to, and I am just so excited for you to with
oh,
these.
you're so sweet to me. That's so sweet and kind. You're so sweet and kind because this is a new adventure for me. And I just admire your courage in stepping out as big as you have, and following your dreams and knowing that there was more for you and stepping into that. And your story is phenomenal. And I wanted to ask, like, before we sort of wrap up, what's next on the cards for you? What's your kind of next goals and dreams? And do you have travel plans? Are you going to be speaking? It wouldn't surprise me if you're going to be speaking internationally. What are your goals and dreams
Well,
now?
I really love where I'm at right now. And I say that, a year ago, when I was, or 90 or 23, 2023, when I published the book, I I thought at that point, this is it. Okay, I did my book, I'm good, And again, after I published the book, I love the book that I wrote, and I share it with so many people, and I donate it to so many different places as well. I get more joy out of donating it. Um, Again, then I thought, oh, I'm not a salesy person. I was never about the sales. It was about helping others. And I kind of felt like, again, like, I'm still not there yet. And then I realized, okay, I need to get out in front of the book. I need to talk about the book. I need to talk about my story. So I feel like I'm home now, in a sense where, okay, I found my purpose and passion, what I want to do, and I want to continue with that. I want to continue growing it. And I think my first step too is the podcast. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my story, because this is a start for me to help others, and my hope and my aspirations is to continue this with other podcasters and speaking engagements, and maybe working with young entrepreneurs, young women entrepreneurs, or business leaders, caregivers. I mean, this conversation can go into so many different arenas, audience of people. So I just want to be that light for others, and to put out there that whatever it is you're going through, that you have the ability, once you connect to yourself, that you have that strength, and to not look for it outside of you, but it's already here, and your gifts are already within you.
Well, your story is such a testimony to the unfolding of life and the stepping and the inner, the going within and knowing there's something next, and then taking a step
Mhm.
towards it, an opportunity flowing in, and the next opportunity, and how the experience you just had feeds the experience you're stepping into. And so I have no doubt this is just going to keep unfolding and being,
Mhm.
even more incredible story.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm really excited to follow you, and just to see what you do next. And of course, I'll stay in touch. And down the road, it'd be fantastic to have you back and see, what's been
absolutely.
happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, where can people find you and follow you? What's the best way to do that?
Let's see. My website is michelleinspires.com. So you can find me in that way. And I have a contact information on my website. And Jacob Brown helped me redesign my
Love it. We'll
website.
plug Jacob
Absolutely.
today.
But yes, and of course my book, Falls Between the Years, is available on Amazon as well. And yeah, so I mean, I'm always out there on LinkedIn, on social media, and inspiring, empowering others every day. I try to put a post out there that maybe can resonate or help others. So yeah, it's
Remind me what your Instagram handle is. Is it pay? Is it
Painfully Beautiful Life.
Painfully beautiful?
Yes, yes. I'm working
Yeah.
on right now, trying to combine those together where everything's going to be michelleinspires.com. But yes, it's also under painfullybeautifullife.com.
Yeah, that branding and having, the same name across all platforms. But
Oh,
I get it. It's tricky, and especially when you've set up, I wanted to use my own personal page, for this podcast, because I think showing who you are is really important, just like
Mhm,
you talk about.
mhm.
But yeah, getting all of this stuff aligned is like a full-time job.
We're always in that transition stage.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, just thanks everybody for listening today.
Oh,
Most of all, thank you, Michelle, for being with us and sharing so openly and vulnerably with us. You know where you can follow her. Please like, share, or subscribe to this podcast. We just hope to keep bringing and continue bringing wonderful stories of strong, resilient and amazing, transformational journey. So thank you, Michelle. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your day.
you
And
too.
as soon as we go live, or not live, but as soon as we publish, I will let you know. And I'll be in touch with you.
Yes, please. I love to connect with you again very
Thank
soon.
you so much,
All
Michelle.
right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.